Oh, I still have the JLP talk background. We'll fix that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And they all came down to the Ladybug's picnic. And we're off. It is 9:01 a.m. U.S. Pacific Daylight Time here in Los Angeles. Monday, October 30th, 2023 A.D. I will have Kaz with me, is the plan, okay? Kaz of Atheist Edge, formerly of, well, also of Factitionalist Network, a slightly less active, 2 YouTube channels, actually. He has hosted / moderated multiple debates with Hake versus various people on Modern Day Debate. So check him out. Check out his moderation work on Modern Day Debate. Atheist Edge is his YouTube channel. He's also on Instagram and Twitter, also known as X, and Facebook. So you can check out Kaz once after we connect here on the Hake Report. We're going to be connecting with him soon. In the next few minutes, going to talk to him about religion, because he's an atheist, I think, right? How are people becoming atheists? So we'll talk about that, and you can call in and talk to Kaz, talk to Hake about the religion, atheism, the politics of it, the mess of it, how people become it. Hey, he's even in the chat. Nice, the YouTube chat. So your calls, if you'd like to call in, guys, you will be taking your calls an hour or two here. But anyway, guys, let's get right on with the show!
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Hey, guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, how you guys doing? I am fine. Yes, I'm wearing that pink shirt that it's the real Mr. Mad you refuse to buy. We call it mauve. M-A-U-V-E. It's like a dark, manly pink, if there is such a thing. And it's mildly attractive. I finally got him in, guys. Thank you. Mildly attractive. So I have my guest with me, I do believe here. Is he unmuted? Kaz, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine, man. Appreciate you coming on. I introduced you as a atheist, a former, a mod on Modern Day Debate. What else do you want to tell briefly about yourself to the viewers here?
Sure. I do videos on my channel about, atheism, analyses and commentary, debate reviews. I'm working on a debate review right now that I'm going to publish soon on my, first it's going to be on my Patreon, and then I'm going to post it live. But yeah, that's what I do mostly.
Nice, man. You still moderating for Modern Day Debate over there?
I mean, I'm available for it. He hasn't asked me in a while. I just usually just am like a free agent. Just he tags me in if he needs me to. But I see he's got a lot of new guys there, so I don't think he needs me that much anymore.
Right on. Yeah, I go on when asked as well. So like he every now and then I may be on his channel on Friday, but we'll see. You're also, well, just a little background on you. Just to share the stuff that I know a little bit about you. You're a veteran, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
6 years.
Worked in the medical field?
Yeah, I was a medic at first, then I became a nurse, and was a nurse for about 10 years when I got out, and then I got burned out, lost that job, so now I'm just disabled.
Okay, man. You're a family man, and you've referred to yourself as cappuccino in terms of people are like, what are you?
That is a humorous way that I like to, maybe not so humorous, it's a little more than that, but it's a way that I like to characterize my racial background, just because I'm not interested in necessarily buying into the things that I'm born into. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? The world that we live in,
Yeah.
the constructs and the paradigms that we exist in. I'm not necessarily going to be bound by those. And my mother is black, my father is white, and I have both of those histories, and I don't feel like I'm necessarily compelled to be one or the other. I can be both. I can be whatever.
Yeah, be yourself. I like that. I can relate to that. I remember as a kid growing up in like 7th, 8th grade being told by the textbooks and teachers that you're going into adolescence and you're going to be angry, you're going to have attitude, you're going to have emotions. And I didn't like being told what I was going to be, what I was going to go through. I felt like it was sort of condescending. These people trying to tell me about myself when they don't even know me. So I kind of relate to a little bit different situation, but relate to the not wanting other people to try to define me or put me into some box that they have for me. Sort of.
Yeah, I can empathize with that.
Yeah. So I think of you as sort of an objective guy, able to, I don't know if you're able to withhold your opinion or just keep even keel and take in other people's opinion. It makes you a great debate moderator. I had no idea where you stood when you moderated my appearances on Modern Day Debate. And I was surprised that I wasn't that surprised that you were an atheist. You are an atheist, right?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
And you're actually kind of into the atheist thing, if you will. Like you have a channel, Atheist Edge, on YouTube and these other platforms. How were you raised non-religious? Were you raised Christian? Were you raised in some other sect?
So I was raised in the Jehovah's Witnesses. That was that until my parents got divorced back in 1995. And after that, my mother took us through a little journey into a basically Southern Baptist type of situation. And in that, I became more of a non-denominational Christian, whatever that means, the colloquial way that I mean that. I don't mean that in the actual non-denominational church type way. I just was disaffected by the way that everybody around me was so flippant with the actual text of the Bible. I knew from, like, for example, I have an aunt who is a preacher, right? She spoke in tongues. I was raised that speaking in tongues is not going to be something that's going to be happening in the last days. I was raised that women should not teach all the usual things. And then I see that everybody's just okay with this, right? And then they've got their own little justification. So that just took me through a whirlwind of not knowing where I was for a little bit. I just decided I'm just going to be a Christian. I'm just going to follow Jesus, love Jesus, try to be like him, blah, blah, blah. And then I think I don't know if you want to get into the whole atheist art thing too, but that's just where I was as a kid.
Okay, yeah. And then how did you become atheist?
Right. So part of that, is a losing of faith a little bit right there, right? So after that, I joined the military when I was 18 and no, I'm sorry, 20. Yeah. I joined when I was 20 and deployed to Iraq. That was the biggest thing that was part of my deconversion, the witnessing the war and all the horrors and atrocities that was.
Iraq? Was it Iraq, Afghanistan area?
It was Iraq, yeah. Had a lot of casualties that I took care of. Not so many Americans. There were plenty, but way more than that. I was a line medic, and so we had a lot of local nationals that they would bring to us. If somebody was injured by one of our RPGs or one of theirs even, or a sniper fire or whatever, if somebody got injured, they'd bring their casualties to us. Now, very often that would be children. Also, they had there was a proclivity there for making tea on the ground with very hot plates and stove in little teapots, and so children would get burned a lot, right? So I got a lot of that stuff. Anyways, all that in total, along with losing friends, disaffected me from it to a great deal, but I still was holding on. So then when I got back, I used my GI Bill to go to a Christian college. I was at that time learning about atheism from YouTubers and stuff, but I wasn't ready to buy into what they were saying. I was saying to myself, this can't be true. There's no way that Christians know about any of this stuff and haven't debunked it or found some explanation for it. But when I went to college, I went to was a Baptist university, and it was mandatory. Old Testament, New Testament history. You have to read the whole thing once again. And I had already gone through it a lot once before then. But so we read the Bible again, and I am taught these. I still have all the slideshows from my college professors, right? I can show you. They know about all these things that the atheists say about the Bible, about for instance, the way that there's whole verses that are just pretty much fabricated, or the copying that's going on, the plagiarism, the X thing, all those things are they're part of the common knowledge. And I was blown away. They're teaching me the same things in college. I'm hearing from the atheists. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm an atheist. So that's it.
Interesting, man. And is that, in your experience, do you know the stats? I know that there are a lot of people turning atheist. There's a big trend for decades, probably, maybe, I don't know how long, of Catholics turning into recovering Catholics, and younger people.
I'm not
Okay.
I'm not familiar with any kind of stats on that. I really hate metadata. If you ask me
nice.
who wrote what, when, I will never be able to answer that question. That's what Google's for.
True. Yeah, I don't really like statistics. I like them somewhat when they're easy to understand and give a kind of confirm what people's common experience is, But there is a lot of ways to lie with statistics. I like anecdotes because they're like a real person's story if they're telling the truth, and they can kind of illustrate how things come about rather than the old like poverty causes crime thing, which is way oversimplifying it. It's kind of a vicious circle type of a thing. So I've noticed that atheists oftentimes tend to be like on an atheist mission, or at least the ones, those are the ones whom you hear from or hear about, because they're, it becomes sort of an identity where they find it their mission to spread like atheist memes. You spread atheist memes on Atheist Edge,
Yeah.
And they come off kind of snarky, kind of angry. Do you have that? Do you get that sense from yourself or from fellow other atheists whom you network with?
I mean, I'm sure it's the same for you, right? If you have your beliefs about what is right and what's wrong, right?
Yeah.
And when you see somebody who doesn't share those beliefs necessarily behaving in a way that is antithetical to them, then it's going to cause some kind of anger for you, right? I can't tell you all the cases of children being harmed in churches, all the cases of parents neglecting the care of their children for prayer, or all the other different little things, the harm that's obvious that religion does, right? I can't cite for you every single case, but they're everywhere and it's very easy to find. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from there, but I hope you can empathize with that too, like you've seen the cases.
I've seen where, well, to your first point about the...
Sorry, I'm freezing in here. It's so cold.
Oh, right.
So that's why I'm shivering. It's like a little...
Dang, I didn't know that. Well, I appreciate you coming in here, man. I've noticed that when Christians and atheists fight against each other, they're emotionally attached to the stuff that they believe. And Christians see atheists turning more towards the liberal side, and atheists seeing Christians being either hypocrites or, doing evil people doing things in the so-called Christian context. You talked about the churches and parents getting nutty ideas and doing evil things to children. And I just see that as just human beings caught up on their egos fighting. And I don't even blame atheism or Christianity or religion or non-religion, because I just see evil people making excuses for being evil and pointing out other people's evil and ignoring their own evil. So
what makes a person evil in your opinion? What's the clear line that delineates between all good and all bad people?
I don't know of any good people, but when I say like evil people being evil, I mean people caught up in selfishness, in blind lies and pride, and
I used
just
to think
hatred.
selfishness was a big part of it, but
Yeah.
I let go of that.
Okay. Hatred. Yeah. Misguided. People are very misguided, whether they're religious or anti-religious or non-religious. We human beings get caught up in ideas and emotions and just mistreat ourselves and one another, waste our lives, and then we get caught up on stuff that we think that we know, think that we believe, and bash one another over it when we're just not. That's not living a real and decent life when we're doing that. So that's
Okay.
what I mean by evil.
Okay. So for me, I would say that evil people are people that have no consideration for other people. Selfishness, I think, is a. Am I muted? No. I think that selfishness is what is. It's a logical foundation for goodness. I think that if you're truly selfish to the maximum degree, you're going to realize that if what's best for you is for everybody else to be in favor of you. Doing things that harm others is going to reduce that. It's going to leave open the door for some kind of retaliation, even if you think that you're getting away with it.
Yeah.
So it's just the most selfish thing in the world to be a good person.
Right. And I think that that's true. I think that I think that people, it's true in both ways, in both the good way and the bad way, if you will, if you'll go with me. I don't know if you're following me. It's like people are selfishly nice to each other and selfishly, they have an ulterior motive when they're kind one to another. And that's why oftentimes they end up turning on one another. And that selfishness turns into like a blind selfishness where you're no longer treating them well just because you perceive that they treated you wrong, you, the general you. And so that selfishness falters in its clarity. It goes from a worthwhile selfishness, like you're treating people as you would like to be treated, to you turn on them when you feel betrayed or when you can no longer get something from them, when they are no longer going to be with you in a relationship type of situation. You kind of throw away the relationship oftentimes. And that's...
Yeah, I've been that guy before. I understand where you're coming from with that.
That's a blind version of selfishness where you're just caught up on ego or on this false notion of what you think that you want out of life.
Yeah, it's about short-sightedness and ignorance. You can't see the forest for the trees, you know?
Yeah. Man, I don't know where to go with this. Well,
I mean, I think that what you're trying to get at here is that, well, I know that from our past discussions, there's a lot of the idea that the things that we call things like racism or other kinds of bigotry that we've delineated, you just want to chalk it all up to just hate in general, right? Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah. Whether you call yourself religious or not, whether you call yourself an atheist or not, people are guilty of what they accuse one another of being. You know, the racism accusation, you see that a lot, like it gets ridiculous. The sexism argument, the Christians blaming atheists for the country going down when the Christians failing is why there are so many atheists, you know? Because we used to be a Christian country and the parents failed the children and then they were left exposed, in my view, to see the hypocrisy of the parents and and not be able to see through like the lies of the world. And so the world has become more fake Christian, and then there's like halfway decent people in every camp, whether it's Christian or whatever, or atheist or whatever. But for the most part,
yeah,
people
there's certainly horrible atheists.
right.
There are certainly
Oh, yeah.
horrible people in every demographic of whatever, you know. I wouldn't try to defend, you know, an atheist, you know, who's doing horrible things whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I know that I am not a perfect person. I've done a lot of bad things in my life that I feel horrible about, you know, every day. So, and that was before I was an atheist and after.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I've noticed that people tend to puff up and like identify with that group of atheists or black or white or women or whatever when like a stereotype comes up, or somebody takes a member of that community does something evil, and people are like, see, like mass shootings. Oh, anti-Christian mass shootings, or Christian terrorism, or white terrorism, or whatever, or the Muslim, you know, the Muslim terrorism. People get all defensive, and then everybody finds some way to be a victim out of the situation or feel attacked out of the situation. And that's just a cause for more anger and fighting and backbiting rather than working together and being.
Can you give me an example, like exactly what you're talking about here, so I can see the dynamic?
There was this story of I don't know if you follow hockey at all, but there was this hockey player over the weekend who died. His throat got slit by the ice skating, you know, blade of a guy who kicked him, and it happened to be a black player who kicked this white player, and the white player
He kicked him intentionally.
It looked intentional. It was like a collision with three guys, and he lifted up his leg. He didn't look like he had any business lifting up his leg. And people are calling it murder because the guy died, bled out, and he died. Mm-hmm. People are calling it murder. People are calling it manslaughter. People are calling it freak accident. The whites who have a beef with the attack on whites are calling this like black on white crime, and the mainstream media is highlighting how this was an accident. And how this guy is now catching a whole lot of hate mail, the black player who did that. And he's going through it. I'm sure he didn't mean to kill the guy. I mean, what sense would that make? But everybody's being...
But you do think he meant to hit him with his foot?
It looked like it. I can't tell. I'm not in the guy's mind. But everybody's a victim in this situation, and people who have nothing to do with the situation are all up in arms over it. Like us outside looking in, the video goes viral because people identify with a human being doing this to another human being, and then the race thing and the dirty play. It looked like a dirty move, and then also the attacks on this black player. He's catching hate mail. People are all animated, and they have nothing to do with the situation. But everybody
regardless
wants
of the situation that actually happened on the ice, there are certainly people who are animated by race to make hateful statements, right?
Yeah. So everybody wants to fight over this, and everybody wants to get emotionally caught up in this situation that has nothing to do with them. You see it all the time with viral videos. People fight over
Like,
them.
it could be the case that those two guys specifically had a beef with each other. Some other thing that we're totally unaware of.
Yeah.
That just, they had a beef with each other, and maybe he did do it intentionally, but it wasn't about race at all.
Right.
Maybe it could have been about race, though.
Yeah.
Maybe the other guy said something racial to him. Who knows? So I don't know what the situation was.
Yeah, and it may have just been a total accident. I have no idea. But go on.
Just trying to warm up. God, can't stop shivering.
Sorry, man.
No, it's not your fault. No, I had this room warming up since like an hour before I came in here. It didn't work.
There's a cold front coming through. It's even cool out here in LA, and the desert out here today.
Yeah, and I know that people make things racial that aren't necessarily racial, and that just happens all the time. People are racism exists, I believe, in all people. I don't think that there's any such thing as a person who's totally, unless you don't have a concept of race. I think that little kids aren't really racist, but they may be able to see differences in other people and may be averted to that because that's just normal animal behavior, right? Animals respond to other animals that don't look like them, like their kin, and they are wary of that, right? That's just animal behavior.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that is the case. We just have to be cognizant of it and try to model a behavior that we think is appropriate, you know, that is ideal. The ideal is I treat you the way you want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily even unfortunate that people gravitate towards their own. I don't see that as an unfortunate thing. It's just like a plain reality. It's something that people have a right to do. And for some reason, whites, because in the white countries, they're the more diverse countries, I guess, they get singled out as racist more often than the other races who are just doing the same thing, but they're just being normal. And there's no harm meant necessarily. When there's harm meant or there's malice or blind judgment, I get that. But so often the blind judgment is the people crying the racism. You know, the mainstream media feeding into that.
If it were the case, imagine a scenario in which all the races decide to segregate entirely by the continents or whatever, right? And they all go off on their own little paths, building up their nations. Eventually, they all have nuclear weapons, and then because of this hatred for each other, they all blow each other up, and the human race ends.
I don't see it happening that way. I mean, I think the human beings are going to always fight even amongst each other. You'll notice that families don't even get along, and when people are,
I'm not saying that it's going to happen that way. I'm just trying to illustrate that the logical termination of this, taken to the extreme, is an unfortunate circumstance, right? When you have a thing and you're trying to figure out, is this an okay thing or a bad thing? Just imagine if everybody else did it. If everybody was doing it, right? If literally everybody is saying, I'm just sticking with my own people, I'm not going to be around anybody else, eventually that is going to terminate in war, at least. I mean, maybe not the end of the planet, but I mean, yeah.
I don't see how you're saying that that them separating to their separate continents, which obviously that's not reality, wouldn't happen anyway.
No.
But I don't see how them separating to their separate continents would make them fight amongst each other and bomb each other out. I think that I don't see how that would increase or decrease the threat of people killing one another, because people are killing one another by mixing together. People are killing one another when they're separated. I think.
Well, I mean, just look at history, right? As territories become more detached from each other, they're going to start competing for resources, right? It's either you compete or you cooperate, right?
Yeah.
So if we're all separate, then we're in absolute competition.
Not necessarily, because there is, I think even in the segregated times, there was some cooperation and trade and mutual understanding. Because there's always going to be some
what segregated time? You mean like the 60s and stuff? I mean before that? Because as far as I understand it, race wasn't really a thing until America, really.
Right, because we had to deal with this situation. I think that it may have been in different places, but I think that's because it must have been because people were interacting with Europeans interacting with Africa, Europeans interacting and Middle Easterners interacting with Asia. I think there was always some level of interaction. But I think that
there was lots of interaction. I know that in like ancient Greece and in ancient Rome, and for instance, it wasn't really a racial type of situation as far as the enslavement of peoples. Even as far as I think approaching the Middle Ages, but I could be wrong. But definitely at some point, towards the transatlantic slave trade, when that started coming up, that's when we started focusing more on the color of people's skin as opposed to the creed that they were part of.
Yeah, I mean, in America, the whites and the blacks in the South, for example, once they abolished the slavery, they started, from my understanding, they started the segregation thing, the Jim Crow laws, separate but equal, supposedly, and that was their way of dealing with the two different groups of people because they were kind of distinct. They had sort of distinct cultures and ways of being, and they wanted to, the whites wanted to keep to themselves, at least those in charge wanted to keep the communities separate and avoid what we have now where there's fighting and suspicion among them. So to me, I see it as their way of dealing with it, and now our way of dealing with it is more, oh, let's all try to be diverse and get along and expose each other to ourselves, and then we'll have mutual understanding. And that works for the people who have sense, but it doesn't work for the people who don't have sense. And it doesn't work partly because the mainstream media loves the viral video effect of having people be suspicious and fight each other and accuse each other. You follow what I'm saying?
I mean, obviously, I'm not totally well educated on the history of how racism came into being. I just know the racism that I witness in the world that I'm around, the racism that I was taught about from my older generations, right?
Yeah.
And I see the effects that I seem to observe here. The facts are what they are, and we can't. I don't know what are we disagreeing on exactly.
The notion that segregation, people naturally segregating as they please or not please,
right.
would be would lead to the ultimate evil. I think giving people freedom or allowing people freedom to separate or not separate or say whatever they want and be called racist or not is better than what we have now, where people are on an anti-racism witch hunt and push diversity on the people.
So I'm just trying to honestly consider that a option, right? Obviously, I have this idea in my head that it's going to be horrible, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying that that's not true, that the reality is it would be okay.
The reality is it would be no worse than we have today.
No worse.
Yeah.
So the
Which
way that
today
I'm
is pretty bad.
conceptualizing how this works, yeah, I mean, the way that I see it working is that you're either on a path towards working together or you're on a path towards coming apart, right? And once you're apart, it's just us versus them.
I say not necessarily. On an interpersonal level, when you break up with a girl, ideally you just go your separate ways and no more malice, no more interaction, no ill will, nor fake love.
Yeah, but if she calls you up and says, "Hey, can you help me pay my electric bill?" What are you gonna do? You're not gonna pay it, right? No.
But there's not going to be any attacks.
Cooperating with her,
right?
You may not attack her necessarily, but you're definitely not going to cooperate with her. You're not going to help her with a lot of. I mean, you might for really bad things you might help her out with, but you're not going to go out of your way for an ex. I mean, yeah, I see your point. You're saying that we don't have to war with each other, right? We could have all black people on one continent, all the white people on one continent, and just totally leave each other alone, right?
Yeah, which isn't what I would necessarily advocate, but yeah, I mean, we have to deal with the reality.
Really leave each other alone, though. Have we seen that in history, where people can literally leave each other alone?
No, there's always been aggressors, so-called victims, people fighting. You know,
there's even famine and environmental crap that makes you need or want to move.
Yeah,
dissatisfaction with your government, as it may be, and all these different reasons to say, you know what they have over there, we got to take it.
Yep. I see that. I think that there is a caricature of history where people are taught more and more that the Europeans or the English colonized, and it was largely detrimental. And I don't know if it was largely detrimental or a mixture of detriment and benefit. There was a lot of benefit that came, and there was a lot of injustices that are always happening between any human beings who interact with each other, whether they're the same race or creed or not. So I think that there is this whites are the oppressors thing going right now, which is I'm
totally against anti-white racism.
Right.
I am against all racism. It is not okay to make a person feel or treat them like they are less because of the color of their skin. I don't care what color that is.
Right.
Right. It's really unfortunate that we have a history where the Caucasian race predominantly had control over that situation, and now there's this recoil effect.
Right.
That is. My dad talks about this sometimes. When I talk to him a lot, right? He talks about this recoil effect of when like the leftists are doing this and it makes the rights do this and it makes this is how it works, right?
Yeah. It's endless revenge.
Stop. I'm totally with you in that. Stop the revenge against white people. It's not okay. It is racism, pure and simple.
Yeah. That's how I see the atheist thing, as like a backlash against the failure of the Christianity or the Christians. Where, again, like I said, the parents are weak, the parents fail, they do wrong. The churches are led by an establishment of liars, kind of like we have in the government, an establishment of weak people posing like they're strong and like they're just. So I see it as everybody is fake. And so the atheists throw out the baby with the bathwater. And
okay, so if you could imagine yourself throwing away just the bathwater, all the bathwater, right? So you're going to disregard all the Bible, the teachings, the churches, and all the preachers. You're going to ignore the apologists, and you're just going to focus on God himself or itself.
Yeah. Yes.
How are you going to keep that baby? What are you holding on to with that baby? Like, how do you know that baby is even there?
Yeah, I say that I personally don't know, and I think that a lot of the failure of the Christians is talking like they don't when they don't know, and I think that's the failure of the atheists too. Then that they jump to a conclusion that prematurely, where there are honest atheists out there who try to stay objective and watch themselves, that they're not led by their emotions and pride, because it becomes a pride battle. You just start spouting off what you believe and trying to look down on the other people who don't believe what you believe. So
I mean, there are certainly a lot of atheists in that stage of their development, and I think a lot of people are like that. But
I think that's human being nature.
I think you know me well enough to know that I'm capable of putting aside my pride and listening to what you have to say.
Right.
So I just want to know where that baby is at.
I think it starts with knowing that you don't know. That rather than spouting off different scientific facts that either back up or debunk God or the Bible and stuff like that.
No, absolutely. I will not try to use evolution, none of that stuff. I will not refer to the science in any way to try to say that God isn't real. Right?
Yeah.
My personal experience is that I have not seen evidence of God, and therefore I conclude that there is none.
And for me, I haven't seen
compelling evidence, I should say. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And for me, I haven't seen any reason to abandon my upbringing as a Christian. And
so your upbringing, the Christianity that your parents taught you, is the exact same Christianity that you have today?
No, it's a little different in that I don't I don't even remember or know all that much of what they believe. They didn't push all that much on me. I did grow up when I was learning to read at 3 years old, like I was learning Bible verses. The Lord is my shepherd. What was your
denomination?
It was kind of like you, non-denominational. My parents, my mother took me to a Presbyterian church, her parents' church, but it was not really like the Presbyterians that you hear about today. I mean, they've changed over the last 40 years, too. I'm 42 years old, and Presbyterians have changed. And then my brother married a Friends Church preacher's daughter, and we started attending the Friends Church, you know, the Quakers, but they were not like the typical Quakers. So it was just like Bible-believing Christians, whatever. And then, you know, there was a little bit of tongues-speaking stuff because we had a friend of the family that did the
tell me about that.
thing.
Wait. Let's stop everything else.
Okay.
So, your family speaks in tongues?
Not a lot. Not really, but I do remember a little bit. I do remember a little bit.
Man.
Both.
Yeah, mine too, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
It wasn't a big show.
Can you don't do it, or do you?
No. I did it as a kid.
Can you mimic the noise?
Okay, so as a kid, they're like, just say something. And so I was like, good.
Yeah.
As a little kid. See, I couldn't come up with stuff like that.
They have like 4 or 5 words,
right?
You might call, that they keep on repeating in different orders, and it's so ridiculous. That's not what speaking in tongues is, though. The Bible describes speaking in tongues as a divine translator, like a Google Translate of God, where you speak the word of God specifically. You're preaching your understanding of the word of God in your language, and magically, divinely, however you want to call it, everybody around you can hear it in their own language. Chinese people can hear it in Chinese. Canadian people can hear it in French. Whatever, you know, it's just magic. You know, that's what speaking in tongues is supposed to be. All this crap, I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah, I don't either. It was, to me, even that as a kid, it was slightly weird. I didn't really have a big opinion about it because it wasn't made a big deal, and it was like, I can remember 2 or 3 times that we were doing that. For the most part, it was just singing Jesus-type songs and going to church, reading, spending time with the Lord, being quiet by yourself. We were supposed to do that as kids growing up. And that was supposed to be a certain segment of the day that you do that. Reading the Bible, praying or not praying so much, but reading the Bible more. So
yeah, we had all of that.
That was my
Bible storybooks with little pictures and stuff. It was beautiful.
In college.
No, see, the thing is, Jehovah's Witnesses, they have this thing where we go to a convention, I think once a year. And as a kid, I loved it because they did live action reenactments of Bible stories. Like, they had these people in full dress costumes.
Nice.
Like, it was an elaborate production. And you can watch the story of Samson and Delilah, the story of the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, all that stuff, right? Just really cool stuff. And the cheese danishes, so good.
Yeah, the food. As a kid, as a Jehovah's Witness kid, were most of your classmates regular Christians?
All of them.
Did you argue with them about it, or you weren't into it?
No, I was very into it. I would not argue with them, but I would try to proselytize as a kid. I was invited to birthday parties and stuff, and I wouldn't do that because John the Baptist's head was served up on a platter on Herod's birthday.
Wow. Interesting, man. Yeah, I knew about, because I would read these chicks publications, and so I knew a little bit about, like, blood transfusions were a no-no for the Jehovah's Witnesses, I think. And there was a Jehovah's Witness in my junior high school, and he would debate with me about the Trinity. And I didn't know what Trinity meant. I just know that it meant Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I didn't think of them as all being God or not God or whatever. But we would debate about the Trinity, whatever that even meant. And he was into it because it was, his mother's religion. It sounds like it was more your father's religion.
No, they met as Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, okay.
They were both born. My father was born a Catholic. My mother was born a Baptist, obviously. So they met. They had both already converted because of previous relationships, I think.
Yeah.
But
there was a girl in church with Jesse Lee Peterson. I'm part of the Bond thing over here. And she was raised Black Hebrew Israelite by her parents. And when they split up, they kind of left that to the side, and now she's turning more maybe Christian, and JLP encourages her not to be anything, not to like take on another identity, because this identity thing is a setup where you hold on to something and it prevents you from just taking life as it comes, taking life as it is. And I don't know what the answer to answer about how do you find God, or how do you not throw away the baby if the baby is God, and throwing away all the mess about the Bible and the false preachers and the, you know, how Christians are hypocrites or whatever. But when I was in college, that's when I started to like drift from my parents' version of Christianity, because I remember my mother telling me stuff that contradicted what the Bible would say. Like the Bible would say, go and sin no more. A person who's born of God no longer sins. And she's like, you're always going to keep on sinning, and you just have to have a broken spirit. You want the blessings of brokenness, you know, this Christianese feel-good stuff. And so I guess that's when I started going into like my own understanding, or really misunderstanding, of Christianity. And that's, interestingly, that's when I got more and more weird, because I got carried off into it, seeking the truth all hard, reading the Bible for hours at a time, and becoming more alienated from my friends because I was no longer just a normal guy. I was trying to be a Christian in some way or other. I got more into politics at one point and became all annoying politically on Facebook, alienating friends and family and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just, it seems like the more you get into whatever, even if it's the quote unquote truth, it turns you there. I mean, it's fine if people get alienated from you and you're not carried away into it. But most of the time when you're alienating people, it seems like, at least in my experience, it's because you're getting carried away with something that you're pridefully attached to and just fighting people with. And I think that takes you away from the baby.
Sure, but I mean, you believe this stuff, right?
Yeah. No, I saw it as a lot of the stuff that I read in the Bible rung true to me. I'm like, that's.
I mean, to me,
right.
It just seems logical. If you believe 100% that this is the truth of the God, that God has actually spoken to people and given him his actual desires and wants and laid out the path for you, why wouldn't you? If you believe that this God is real, why wouldn't you follow every single word of it? I don't care if it's Old Testament, New, whatever, right? If God said it, I want to do it, because he's freaking God, man. I won't eat shrimp. I'm gonna grow my beard. I'm gonna do all that stuff, right? Because that's freaking God. That's what he wants. It doesn't matter if he only said it's the Israelites. He wanted them to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I know that some of that stuff was like for the benefit of them, and some of it was translated in weird ways. Like, I think I heard on American Anchor Baby, who's like another, he's another host on the JLP network here, that somebody said on his show, a caller, that the not wearing fabric of two different types of fabric, not wearing clothing of two different types of fabric, is actually a reference to one of the practices of the pagans, where they wore this particular thing in worship of some other false god or something. And so it was basically saying, it wasn't saying, oh, you can't wear cotton and polyester, even though I kind of disavow polyester. But there's a whole lot of people making assumptions about what the Bible means when they have no idea what it is actually saying.
So here's a problem with that, right? And this is not my analogy. I got this from, I think, Stefan Molyneux, who I do not endorse. Do not go looking at his stuff.
Okay.
I heard this a long time ago, and it rings true to me. Okay. He was a computer programmer. He wrote programs, and he was talking about writing manuals for those programs and trying to distribute them overseas. And he was saying how much care that they took in making sure that every single instruction was perfectly translated so that it would be understandable to the people in that other language.
Oh, wow.
And he was wondering if this computer programs manual that I find so important, that I'm going to take this much care into translating, why is it that this manual for life is so poorly translated that God, who has the power to ensure that we have the understanding that is necessary, isn't taking that care? It is not. It is evidence of lack of divinity that it is not easily translated perfectly in every language.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. I think the Bible only came into play with Gutenberg's printing press, right? Most people didn't even have a Bible.
They were hand translated and hand transcribed by monks and preachers and churches and stuff. The Vatican did a lot of that.
So normal people just lived their lives as best they saw.
Totally ignorant.
And I don't know that they were any worse than us today or much better. But I think that human beings today, with all of our knowledge and information at our hands and Bibles at our hands, I don't know that God even meant for us to be into the Bible and stuff like that so crazily, because it wasn't widely available until, 200 years ago or 400 years ago, something like that?
I mean, that's an interesting thought. I really don't know where you're getting that from, as far as
people weren't.
I just don't see that.
People weren't. People had no Bible to read, so why would God think that you're supposed to live by the Bible if there was no
so
Bible
you're kind
until
of saying
the last?
that the Bible isn't important.
It's not as important as people are pretending that it is today.
How important is it?
It's important in that there are principles in it that are true.
But
I think that everybody.
Read them to
What's
know
that?
Them. You don't need to read the Bible to know them.
Yeah, I mean, even in the Bible it says, and in common sense it says, I think common sense says that each person has some common sense. That's why it's called common sense. It's common to all, but a lot of people get detached from their common sense.
So here's the truth that I think
on how to live.
I think that there is truth in that sentiment, right? That there is within all of us the ability to understand what good actually is, because I think that good is a real thing. I think it is not in the sense, I should be very careful with my words here, the words real and things and all these things. Yeah. It is a phenomena that exists as an observable force between agents, people who talk and think and make choices, right? If you can make choices and there's more than one of you, then there's a good way to interact, because there is the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. It's the same kind of thing. That straight line exists whether there's a pencil to draw it or not.
Yeah. I think that, like, the Christian way to say it is like God made all of us, and he put the truth available for anybody to access. And there's people who treat each other right and treat each other wrong, and he allows people to be evil.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely empathize with that sentiment. I agree that there is an objective good way to treat other people, but I just don't think that God decided that, right? If God decided what was the best way for me to talk to you right now, then he could have chosen a different way. He could have chosen any way. He could have decided that the best possible way for me to talk to you right now is to cuss you out and act ignorant as hell, right? But he didn't, for whatever reason, but that's just his opinion. That's just his preference, is how he felt. If it's only about that. Now, if he's referring to anything else to make that judgment, then that's what I care about. What he's referring to when he decided the best way for me to talk to Hake is to be respectful and listen and all that other stuff.
Yeah. So what's your point about that?
That if either the good things in the world are because they are, or because God decided that they are.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of follow.
It's the Ethereal dilemma, right? Is what is good because God says it's good, or because it's just good?
Yeah.
I say it's got to be just good. It doesn't make any sense if God says it's just good. And even if God exists, the good still exists, regardless of what he thinks about it. So he's irrelevant.
Interesting, man. You know, we're coming to the top of the hour. How are you for time right now, man?
I mean, I'm good to go, or we can cut it short. It's up to you, man.
Okay. Let me hold you over at least 15 more minutes after this break, maybe 20 more minutes, really. I want to play a song and take a quick break, 5 minutes maybe. I have some super chats to read. If anybody wants to call in, feel free to call in, 888-775-3773. I'm talking to Kaz of Atheist Edge. And we'll take a quick break. It's Menomena Monday, everybody. Let's hear Menomena, Posh Isolation. And I'll be right back for hour 2. Hang tight, guys, to your super chats. And any calls if you like. Hank played the cool music for his atheist buddy. It's a Christian band. Gonna start reading some super chats as we wrap up this music here, guys. Before we get back to Kaz, some callers talking in. Some callers calling in. This is Menomena. Posh Isolation, the king of graduates. Hake was a Quaker? Something about that makes sense. I don't think disrespecting those who speak in tongues is cool. That disrespects one's connection with God and the Holy Spirit. I don't think either of us really share disrespect, just disbelief in the notion that it was real tongues, king of graduates. Greenwall with a diamond. Your love of truth paid off. I'm happy for you. don't know if that's to me or to Kaz Greenwall. Zuzu CC on with a coffee. Happy birthday, Rome 13. Billy Glasses? I don't follow, but happy birthday, Rome 13. Yenrik Yagoda, he lost faith in... Oh, okay, this one is addressing Kaz. Kaz, are you still there? Oh, come off it, make him off. Kaz, you there? We had you on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
I want to read a few super chats. Some of these are for you, and then we have a couple of calls, so we may go longer than 15 minutes if you're doing okay in there. Yenrik Yagoda bought a coffee. He lost faith in God probably around the same time. Oh gosh, he lost his hair. Says Yenrik Yagoda. I don't know. It looks like you have
way
hair.
Earlier than that. I've always had an unfortunate hairline, like 5-finger freaking. Oh my god.
Okay.
My son. Oh, I feel so bad.
That's right, man. You're a family man. So you're married, right? Are you?
Not legally. No.
Oh, okay. Is that
Been cohabitating for like 7 years.
Is that the atheist way, or is that just how life happened? Or neither?
I've been married twice. I'm not in any kind of rush to do that again.
Yeah.
We are doing great as a couple and getting better. So I have no. If she wants to do that eventually, then we can do that. But it's not really a concern.
Wish you well, man.
We did a little ceremony, a little atheist ceremony, and got quote unquote married.
Okay.
By my son. He officiated it. So.
All right.
It was very sweet.
Let's see. Base America First, I see your super chat. I'll read it a little bit later. Spoiler alert, bought a coffee. If the guest believes, this is Kat, referring to Kaz, that race mixing and desegregation averts violence, which I don't know if that's what he believes, have him take a look at Brazil. It's the most race-mixed place on the planet and a world leader in murder and violence of every kind. Any comment on that, Kaz? You familiar with the situation in Brazil?
I'm not familiar with the situation in Brazil. I will look into that further and see what's going on and form another more well-informed opinion on that. I look at it from a more fundamental kind of situation where diversity itself is a good, just philosophically and practically speaking. I mean, just look at microbiology, just look at chemistry, right? Everything in existence, literally reality could not exist as we know it without the concept of diversity. It is diversity itself that keeps you alive. The diversity of life inside your gut, the diversity of your genetics to keep you from degrading into some kind of, well, I'm going to use it pejorative, but to have genetic.
I follow what you're saying without
fidelity,
deformities and stuff like that.
Yes, we need diversity. Homogeneity is death. It just is. If the Nazis had their way, Germany, maybe not today, maybe in a couple more decades, but eventually we're going to see all kinds of problems if they had their way. It's not a good idea. It's just flat out wrong.
Interesting, man. I don't see diversity as an inherent value. I see diversity when it's happening naturally as fine, but this forced diversity stuff is wrong. Go ahead.
Take, for instance, Stalinism, right? And what happened with the famine under Stalin because of the lack of diversity of thought, right? I think we're all for diversity. I think that it's just a matter of seeing it for what it really is. But I understand your perspective, and we can discuss that further.
All right. JC from Little Rock, Arkansas, moving forward with the super chats. Cute shirt, Hake. It's giving Jamie Antoine realness. Slay, baby boy, slay. Laughing face emojis with tears. Because I'm wearing my mildly attractive t-shirt. It's mauve. It is not that pink. Question for your guest. Kaz, did you ever experience racism for being mixed? And are your parents still close even after divorce?
That's hard to say. I have experienced racism from white and black people to various degrees. And I guess you could say that is because I am mixed. So, I mean, have I ever had somebody say, "You're a mutt" to my face? Actually, maybe. I don't know.
But it wasn't memorable enough for you to be holding on to it.
Resenting now that I think, I don't hold on to things. I really am very good at just letting things go
and
moving on. I don't hold grudges very good.
Also for Kaz, it's K-A-Z, not C-A-Z. If you chose to have children, will you raise them to be atheists?
I have children. I don't raise them to be atheists. I raise them to be critical thinkers. I give them the backstory of as much theology as I can. I tell them what Christians think. I tell them I don't think it, but I tell them they are allowed to think that if they want. I'm not going to make them feel bad.
Right on.
There's lots of opportunities for them to become Christians. Their grandparents who live very close proximity of us are able to take them and talk to them about that kind of stuff. We let them do that all the time.
Do you ever catch flack for being black atheists, JC asks?
No. Generally, when people look at me, they don't assume that I'm black. Sometimes they assume that I'm Mexican or Puerto Rican or something like that, but it's generally not a problem for me. The black side of my family, they're not atheists, obviously. They're all Christians. So there's that.
Right on. He says, Kaz, have a great day. I'll read the rest of your super chat tomorrow, JC, or later. Yenrik Yagoda says, when Kaz uses personal experience to prove he has seen no compelling evidence of God, he is rational. When I have seen no personal experience that... Oh, gosh. I don't know if I can read this out loud. I'm going to have to disavow it. Okay, but I'll read it out loud. When I have seen no personal experience that Africans are as intelligent as Europeans or can build societies as prosperous as Europe, I'm an irrational racist. Kaz explained this. So I don't know if Kaz would say this to you, Yenrik Yagoda, but you've seen the arguments about IQ and race and stuff probably in some form, and societies that the different cultures have built.
They're looking at bell curves. They're looking at averages. They're looking at a population, right? And the thing about population statistics is they are controlled by evolutionary forces, right? And the thing about human evolution is it's 100% artificial selection. Everything that we do from our evolutionary standpoint is artificial selection. And when you look at now, I'm ready to start talking out my ass, right? I am not going to comment on the actual statistics of whatever, right? I know that there are African people who are just as intelligent as any white person you've ever heard of, more intelligent, right? So you can look at an average of a population and say, hey, they're not on average as intelligent as somebody else. But that doesn't mean that they can't be. That means that somebody or something has been putting some kind of evolutionary pressure on them to not value intellectual achievement. And the intellectual achievement itself is a construct of the people who created the IQ tests, right? You can create an IQ test right now if you want and make it so that you pass it 100% and everybody else is going to look like a dumbass.
Interesting, man. And then what about the society building thing? You called it artificial selection. What does that mean?
Artificial selection is making decisions on who gets to be born, pretty much.
Oh, okay. Like
for instance, elaborate. You have a litter of cats, right? You neuter or spay all the ones that don't have the light coat that you want, and the one that it does have the light coat that you want, you make sure that they have babies. And you keep doing that over and over again, and eventually you're going to have nothing but litters of very light-coated cats.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
So like in America, we had a population of African people, right, that we brought over here, right? And what did we do to them? We killed anybody who talked back, right? We killed anybody who had any kind of will to stop this kind of crap, right? We killed them. We didn't let them have children. So we're artificially selecting.
I see what you're saying.
This has nothing to do with their inherent capacity. This is just choosing that we want only black people in America that will obey, right? So now you have the situation that we're in, and we can choose differently.
Interesting, man. Hadn't heard it put that way. Okay, let's see. Several more super chats coming in. Morning, gentlemen. Wishing you guys well. That's a silly notion, says Being Enlightened Till I Rise, that God is obsolete because God is good and good is God, he says. The reason you treat people with respect, etc., is because returning to God gives you his nature, which is inherently good. To separate good from God is a falsity, he says. With 12 coffees. I don't know if you follow that.
He's saying that God is equivalent to good.
Yeah. That's what he's saying.
Okay. I understand where you're coming from as far as being taught that. That is not how I see it. What can I say about that?
If that were true, could an atheist be godly without realizing it?
I suppose, yeah. That seems logical.
JC from Little Rock, Arkansas. What do you mean by mess in the Bible? There are certain things in the Bible that's outdated, but the Word of God is not mess. He's calling the Bible the Word of God.
I mean, this goes back to the last question, right? I mean, to say that God is good, right? I mean, that could be the case, but I'm looking at the Bible, and I'm looking at what is claimed that God said, ordered, allowed, all these things.
Yeah,
and those things are obviously not good to me. Now, you can try to justify it and make it all these little excuses, but they don't make any sense to me, right? There's no world where it's okay to buy a little virgin girl just because you raped her. I'm sorry. This is not, it doesn't make any sense, okay? Right. So if you want to try to explain to me how it's okay to steal a virgin girl that you raped for what is now $12 in shekels, right? That's $12. I mean, I haven't checked it in a couple of years, so it could be like 13 or something, maybe even, I don't know. But yeah, if you can explain to me how that's good, then I will become a Christian.
That was,
or
that's a reference.
You can show me a miracle.
That's a reference to like an Old Testament rule that if he like impregnated an underage girl, a 12-year-old.
No, it's the rule is that if you take a virgin and rape her, then the punishment is you have to buy her for 50 shekels.
And now you have to you're responsible for her. You have to take care of her.
Yeah.
Is the idea.
So now she's your sex slave for life. Right.
Dang. Well, I mean,
that sounds awesome, right?
For my attempt to justify that, because life is really rough, especially back then.
Well, yeah.
You know,
life is bad. Yes, life is bad. But God is supposed to be good. That's the problem.
But consider a young lady underage like that who gets R-worded, I call it, just to protect the channel, I guess, because I don't know. Rape is kind of an ugly word, but it's a reality that happens. Somebody has to take care of her, you know, or because now she's so-called damaged. Right? So-called damaged goods.
God could not tell them, hey, if a woman's been raped in your population, do not treat her like broken goods. He couldn't tell them that. No, it doesn't make any sense, bro.
All right, because that's like the way to. That's the way to make sure that she gets taken care of.
God couldn't do things.
Right.
Like, he couldn't have told them, "Oh, stop doing this stuff," because they just wouldn't accept it. Okay, but they'll accept not eating pig. They'll accept circumcising their sons.
But in reality,
you can't tell me
not
to eat. But I can cut my kids. No, man.
But it is. But if you look at it, it's kind of your take reminds me of the feminists teach men not to rape. Well, men already know. We kind of inherently know not to do that. It's only when we get twisted in our lives that human beings start raping one another. So this whole teach men not
rape is a legal term, right? It has a lot of broad things, right? There are a lot of things that can be considered rape that you might not necessarily call rape right off the bat, right? So I mean, there are things that boys have to be taught as far as not committing the act of rape, right? Like, it's not a good idea. Hey, boys, do not get your girlfriend drunk and then try to have sex with her.
Right.
Like, I know that there are movies that say that's a good idea and all that stuff, but hey, that's rape. You know, that needs to be taught.
Interesting, man. I mean, I think it's because they've thrown out the so-called baby with the bathwater, where the older school religious views, I guess it's a religious view, of no sex before marriage has been thrown out. So people are having sex like crazy. So now the only value is consent. But, you know, in defense of, not in defense, but in like clarity, half the time, the only time that people can have the S word sex is getting drunk first. You know what I mean? So then neither of them can really consent if you follow that rule. I get what you're saying, drugging people.
If you were having a problem where you're taking girls out and they're not having sex with you, and you're starting to feel like you need to get them drunk, then what you need to do is find a man or somebody who you respect, who is not
to
a rapist,
show you game,
right?
Yeah.
And get his mentorship.
Right.
Okay, that's what you need to work on yourself. Okay,
Right.
There's reasons why they don't want to sleep with you, and it's not because they're horrible people.
Right, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where men and women naturally drink together, and then
No, yeah. There's nothing wrong with two people consensually lubricating the social gears, so to speak, right? But that's like something, and see, that's the thing that needs to be taught, right? How do you tell if that's the situation that you're in,
right?
Versus I just got her really wasted and I'm about to rape her, right?
Yeah.
These are lessons that need to be, not just boys but girls too. They need to understand how to protect themselves, right?
Right. I think human beings are evil, and like they are manipulative. Yeah. All right, let me keep on moving. Spoiler alert says the only black guy in the entire ice hockey league also just happens to be the only player in history ever to what he calls murder kick someone in the ice, way beyond 1350 here. I don't know if you're familiar with, you probably have heard the 1350 statistic.
I've heard it.
I don't know if that's, you may not even, it doesn't even require.
I mean, we started off this conversation saying that statistics are bullshit, right? We already agreed on that. So let's just throw that thing away, right? There's lies, damn lies, and statistics, right? So let's just forget about 1350, can't we? Nope, can't do it, huh? Gotcha.
Only because our reality sees that. I mean, you go into the average black community,
right? It doesn't tell you the truth. It's just a statistic.
Yeah, it's just a statistic. But when your common experience is, if you're going into a predominantly black community that's run down like that, it's going to be more dangerous than if you're going into a nicer suburban community or whatever. It's just...
What is your political bent? Are you a libertarian, Republican?
I'm more like conservative, Republican, but...
No libertarian in you whatsoever?
I'm sure there is some libertarian in me, yeah. What do you say to that?
Well, there's a lot more libertarian than even liberal, I'd say. But I'm like a libertarian liberal type of guy.
Okay.
So the drug war, how do you feel about that?
I don't know. I've heard good and bad things about it. This since the 80s, with the crack epidemic and the high murder rate to today, where they're arresting people for mostly supposedly for dealing, possession, and stuff like that, in order to deal with the high murder rate from the late 80s, early 90s. That's my context, big picture context for their so-called drug war. And it's the feds.
I look more a little bit further back, more towards Nixon and Reagan.
I think the feds. Are not the answer. The federal government is not the answer to any of the crime problems. I think they make things worse.
Do you think that marijuana is worse than alcohol?
In some ways, yes. It's kind of apples and oranges, but in some ways, yeah. In some ways, no.
I want you to look at, like, my question is like, yeah, there's apples and oranges, but just weigh the apples and the oranges and tell me which one weighs more. The sack of apples or the sack of oranges?
I would have to admit that there's a lot of, I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because of the more widespread use and abuse of alcohol is clearly more destructive on the whole than the lightweight.
So let's just take like one joint versus one
beer
shot, or one. I don't know how much alcohol is equivalent to one joint. Let's just say the alcohol equivalent of one joint, whatever that may be. 2 shots, let's say.
I don't know, man. It feels like it's more than 2 shots, but because a joint.
Would you rather drive on one joint or 2 shots?
I don't know. I haven't done a whole joint ever. So,
yeah. Would you rather have somebody in your face yelling at you on a joint or a shot?
Oh.
Which one do you trust yourself? Would you rather have a gun in your hand with a joint or a shot?
Probably the joint. I'm not sure.
Definitely. I mean, I know that me and alcohol, and somebody yelling in my face, bad day.
Yeah.
Everybody involved, including me, I don't want to go to jail. So I definitely don't trust myself on alcohol at all. I think alcohol is clearly the loser in that situation. But we have a world where alcohol is illegal. And where I was going with this is I was going to, try to explain, how the drug war affects these statistics in a large way. But I think that you can figure that out on your own. And that's not a big deal. The thing that we need to talk about is the principles at hand here. What is the underlying principle that allows us to say what these crimes are and aren't, and how to police these things? If alcohol and marijuana are bad at all, right, then we're allowing bad anyways. It's about what? Freedom? Is freedom the thing that we're talking about here? Because like me as a libertarian, I really care about freedom, right? So the things that are considered crimes, I would say that's bullshit. Those aren't even crimes. So don't tell me about the statistic, right? But if you don't care about freedom necessarily, if you're more about, obedience for instance, right, then maybe these statistics are the most important thing in the world to you.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Are you an obedience guy or a freedom guy?
I'm a little bit of both. I'm for freedom to do right and to say the truth, and I'm not for freedom to be vulgar, falsely accusatory, stuff like that. And the marijuana thing, I see that there's a lot of culture around being high, and I don't think that is a good culture at all. And
but neither is the I agree.
And I agree that neither. And I agree that neither is the
beer culture.
The beer culture, yeah.
The being drunk.
Right. I think that those are both.
Cold beer on a Friday night.
And it's interesting because we had, from what I understand, it was the women who pushed when they banned alcohol for a decade or however long that prohibition.
Getting their asses beat by their drunk ass husbands.
Right. Keep it clean for me, man. This is I didn't tell you before, but keep it clean.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that it was misguided women and federal mama government over policing the alcohol thing. And now we've gone kind of the opposite extreme. Oh, alcohol is cool and all that stuff. And now we have the same thing happening with marijuana, where we're going from one extreme of prohibition to, let it all hang out. And both are wrong. We need to value, and I'm not saying by laws, but I'm saying we need to value self-control.
I mean, I would agree with you that there is harm that can be gotten from marijuana use, right? It's not like it's a totally pure, easy thing to just say, okay, let's go ahead and let everybody do it, right? It is, to me, though, about the freedom to destroy yourself, right? Freedom doesn't mean anything if duty is if it's subservient to duty. If to say that freedom is below duty is to destroy freedom entirely.
Yeah.
The freedom to do good only means something. It means nothing if you don't have the freedom to do bad. You always have the duty to do good, but that duty cannot, if freedom matters, then duty and freedom have to be co-equal. Otherwise, freedom doesn't exist at all.
Interesting, man. I like it. I think I agree with that. One last quick super chat from Spoiler Alert before we get to calls. And it might not be quick. It might take us away again. Separation preserves diversity, says Spoiler Alert. You follow that?
I'm considering it. That's an interesting point. I'll think about that. Separation preserves diversity. I mean, in a macro sense, yeah. Like you're going to have, like if the earth is permanently stuck with these cultures, keep on inbreeding, let's say, because that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
That would preserve the distinct different segments of them, right? It wouldn't allow for new groups to form. I mean, it's not like what whiteness was not the status quo for humanity for a very long time, right? Whiteness would not exist if that was the way that we treated things.
Yeah.
Right. If it was the case that we would keep everything homogenous, then whiteness would never exist.
Yeah, I mean, by whiteness you mean
the pale skin that you have.
What's considered? Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know how stuff came to be in terms of evolution or not evolution or whatever. I don't have a position on it.
I believe I don't know, right? I'm referring to what I remember from what I've heard from the scientists and whatever, right? So don't take what I'm saying as a gospel or whatever. But from what I understand, it's about human migratory patterns further north, coupled with interbreeding with other, what is the word? Not Homo sapien, but what's the word? The other apes that are similar to humans that were, I wish I had that word. I'm sorry. It just escapes you at the moment. But there were other animals like the Neanderthals, right? Whatever the word is that category that we are both a part of, the Neanderthals and all the other apes. There was interbreeding between humans and them, coupled with migratory patterns further north, causing the mutations that resulted in the skin that you have right there.
So interesting,
and I have,
man.
To some degree.
Yeah. Man, that's mind-boggling. It's fascinating. Okay.
So because of that interbreeding, because of that lack of preservation of homogeneity, because of diversity, white people exist.
I think we need both. We need allowance for separation and allowance for this mixing, which is how reality happens anyways. I don't like this forced diversity.
Yeah, I don't want to force anybody. I'm not for any kind of policy that says, hey, you as a white guy have to marry a black girl or anything like that. No. I'm just saying that we need to tolerate each other as best we can and allow for people to mix as they wish.
Evil is still real over on Rumble says, answer my call. I want to talk to this guy. The King, I'll get to your call, man, and other calls. The King of Graduates says, God is supposed to be good. Hake, you're the Christian. How do you not defend God? He doesn't need defending. Sorry, Kaz, not Kaz.
Because he's indefensible. Sorry.
hopefully you'll read the next of my super chats. Okay. It looks like I'm going to keep you through the end of this hour, Kaz. Appreciate you hanging through. Man, CJ in Texas is on the line. CJ, thanks for calling, man. You're live with Kaz, Atheist Edge.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Hey, Kaz, I wanted to address a couple points with you. Both of them are related to each other. Mind if I pick your brain?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
All right. So 2 things I wanted to talk to you about is did you say you chose to stop believing in God because you saw no evidence of an existence of God?
If I use those exact words, then I should retract that. I would not characterize the transition as a choice per se, more as being compelled by my assessment of the preponderance of evidence. So sorry if I said that.
So compelled means you don't have a choice in it. You were forced to not believe in God because of.
Yes, my understanding of the facts at hand forces me to choose.
What compelled you?
My understanding of the preponderance of evidence compels me to believe as I do.
So your understandings force your beliefs?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's your experience too, right, CJ, or no?
I don't know. Like, do you ever choose to do anything in your life? Or is everything just compelled by outside forces?
So I do make choices. I do have agency, but I don't think that is my default setting. I don't think that's humanity's default setting. I think that and this is just my opinion, right? I'm not getting this from anybody. I think that free will is an exercise, a skill that we learn. When we are behaving instinctually, when we're being reactive, when we're being basic, let's say, that is not free will. That is just animal robot type stuff. When we deny ourselves, when we practice delayed gratification, any of those kind of things, that is the exercise of free will that you have to practice. So I do make choices, but sometimes
do you believe
I'm
you've
just
ever made a choice or a decision in your entire life?
I do, yes.
You do? Okay. So let me ask you this. When you say there's no evidence and you don't believe you've ever seen any evidence, you're pretty much talking about, I mean, those are words that usually belong in the realm of science and natural laws.
I did caveat that it was compelling. I don't know if you heard me. I did say it as an afterthought.
Yeah. But when you are making, I'm just talking about the when you said there was no evidence, that you had seen evidence and proof and things like that, usually belong in the discussion of science and natural laws.
And also legality and...
Okay. And you have made decisions and choices. So I'm just going to ask you this. Does matter ever make a choice or a decision? Like, does a rock ever make a choice or a decision?
Does inanimate matter make choices?
No, animate matter. Too. Does a leaf blowing in the wind ever make a choice?
No.
Or a decision? Does energy, does light, kinetic energy, electrical energy, does it ever make a choice?
I don't believe so, no.
Does a force like gravity or a field like an electromagnetic field, does it ever make a choice or a decision?
I don't believe so.
Okay, those are everything and that can be proved with science, but that's all there is in science. That's in the realm of proof and evidence. So if you're talking about something that can make a choice or a decision, such as this magical thing inside yourself, there is no evidence and no proof that you are making a choice that you can show me to where I could understand that you're not just some physical robot charged with energy reacting to your environment around you. There's no evidence of a decision maker or a choice or a consciousness or anything that can predict the future or decide what it wants to do in the future. So if there is something like that in the universe, and the universe could have created a consciousness that could make a choice, then the universe itself is capable of creating things that make choices and consciousness, which means the universe itself contains choice-making and consciousness ability. And I'm not sure how you believing that there are decision makers and choice makers is an evidence that there is something outside of the realm of science that is making choices and decisions.
Okay, so I hope I didn't lose the track. We kind of went on a little bit longer than my brain could keep up with. So I'm going to just say
choices and decisions don't have evidence and proof in science. They don't exist.
Okay, so science, let's not even go there. Let's go there. A pixel. How many images are in a pixel?
One color.
One color.
There's no images inside a pixel. There's
no images in a
pixel,
right?
Image.
Right. Are there any images in any pixels anywhere?
A pixel is one color.
So I cannot find images in pixels.
Cannot find an image inside a pixel unless you're going to call the image of one color an image. A pixel is just the smallest unit of something that shows a color.
Right. And so you see there that the image only exists when the pixels are related to each other, right?
There's no image inside a pixel.
So my
Pixels
decision
inside of
capacity,
no, he said,
only exists. I'm sorry, what? Did I miss something?
No, I was about to reiterate what you said, that images
an LED light an LED light by itself is a pixel.
Right, I know. That's the point I'm making.
It exists without another pixel being next to it.
And an image is made by multiple pixels in relation to each other, is what he said.
Yeah.
And that's how I conceptualize my decision-making ability, my consciousness. You won't find it in any of the atoms. You might not even find it in any of the cells. But when you look at the bigger picture, at the interrelated, the network, that's where you see that.
Right. Just like God, right?
Network phenomena.
Just like God, right?
I'm sorry?
Just like God, right? It's a phenomenon that you can't measure. It's just like God,
you can't
right?
measure it.
So you have no problem believing in yourself exist as a decision maker without any evidence whatsoever.
What? Well, I have lots of evidence.
But you apply a different standard to believing in God. That's fine.
I have my entire life.
No, I wanted to ask you about something else. Let's just, I think
let's stay there for a second. Hold on.
I'll let you ask something else, CJ. It sounds like he wants to jump in there with a comment.
Let's stay there for a second. You said I have no evidence that I exist, but I've been alive. I have witnessed 38 years of my life. I know that I exist because of my evidence of that. I've got so much evidence that it's ridiculous. Like, you cannot convince
What
me
does being
otherwise.
alive mean?
But I don't have any evidence that God is a real, actual thing. I have. I'm sorry. So let me see.
You have no evidence that anything exists that could ever make a decision or a choice.
You called on this earlier. Let me correct myself. I have no compelling evidence. I have witness testimonies, which I disregard, and I have records from ancient texts, which I also disregard for many reasons. So other than that, I have no compelling evidence that God exists. Now, if I had 38 years of direct experience with God, where he was talking to me, speaking to me, then you would not be able to convince me that he didn't exist.
What's your evidence that anything has ever made a choice or a decision?
The evidence is that I have made choices, and that is my evidence right there. It may not be absolute proof, but it's evidence that I can make choices, and therefore you can.
All right.
Have you ever looked?
So you have no evidence that Hake has ever made a choice or a decision, so you don't believe that Hake has ever made a choice or a decision because there's no evidence.
No, I have evidence. I have evidence. I have seen him behave in ways that are consistent with making choices, which I have firsthand experience of, and therefore I can conclude inferentially, of course, that he is making choices. Now, that is not proof. I cannot prove the other side of reasonable doubt. I cannot make a case for it in court.
Blade Runner,
that is
buddy. I think you missed the entire concept behind it. Is that at some point you can make a technology that mimics choice making to the point that you could not distinguish the difference from it. And that's because there's no evidence of choice or decision making in the realm of science that ever, right? And if you do believe in something that's making a choice or a decision, it's not matter, it's not energy, it's not a force, and it's not a field.
Are those the only realms of
people
science?
are making choices and decisions, right? But it's not anything that science can prove or give evidence towards.
I'm sorry, is there no science involved in neurobiology, neurochemistry? Do fMRIs not exist? Am I tripping?
Yeah, of course there is, because there's decisions and all that, but decision making and choice and all of that is beyond the realm of science.
Or the energy
it exists outside
at
of
all, is it? Like, chemistry as a science is not just about studying the actual matter, it's about the relations,
Nothing
the
in chemistry allows for a choice or a decision to be made. It is all reaction, just like physics is all reaction, just like no choice or decision is made in mathematics, physics, chemistry, or anything else that has to do with science or math. There is nothing in science and math that allows for a decision or a choice to ever be made anywhere in the naturally occurring universe. You're wrong.
The choice
You're talking about a soul.
Is a choice.
You're talking about an ethereal,
you don't have to use a base 10 to do math.
non-tangible
any number. That's
being that can manipulate the future of the universe because it has desires and wants. And what you're telling me is that parts of the universe have desires and wants, just like God has wants and desires for the universe he created. And what you're describing is you're describing souls. And when you say universe that has a consciousness, you're describing God. That's fine. I wanted to get onto this other point. You mentioned that there was artificial selection and everything that humans did. I'd like to know what your viewpoint is on when humanity ever started existing outside of the natural world and became an artificial construct. And if humanity became something artificial, what made human beings stop being natural in the course of evolution and start being something that was artificial that now also exists outside of the laws of nature and science and natural selection? And if a human decides to select for something and human beings are natural, that would still just be natural selection and not artificial selection.
You are absolutely correct, sir. The term artificial that is being used is being used in a context, a specific context, is juxtaposition against natural selection in the
because you think what human beings are capable of is something beyond the laws of nature. You think human beings are capable of making choices and stuff that are beyond the laws of nature and science, which is correct thinking. Human beings, when they make choices and they make decisions,
one at a time.
All right.
He doesn't stop talking.
I have a hard time hearing him.
Okay. Close out this call.
I didn't know you were talking. Sorry, buddy. But
that's fine. No ill will
in order for
you or me.
So in order for human beings to make to be artificially selecting something, that means what human beings are doing is outside of the realm of natural laws and science, which is precisely what human beings are doing. They're making decisions and choices with science.
I
and
think you can't
natural
hear him because you get louder when he starts talking.
It's like popping and stuff. It's not.
Oh,
smooth
okay. All right.
Language.
I hope it's not on the stream.
Well, I think you made.
Just
I think you made your
let
point
him know
pretty
that I
interesting.
agree with him. That I think that artificial in that context is a misnomer.
I appreciate it.
Everything's natural except for what human beings do, and it's not bound by the laws of nature or science. Decision making and choice making is the province of the soul and something beyond the realm of physical and energy science.
It's not.
Peace out.
Thank you, CJ.
It's
Appreciate
a phenomena of networks.
Interesting call, man. David in Ocala, Florida is on the line. I have to get to all these calls before we wrap up. David, thanks for calling. You're live with Kaz of Atheist Edge.
Hey, King Kaz.
Hey.
Hey.
I want to come at this in a little different way. First off, the Word of God defends itself. Okay, the Word of God.
The Bible.
I believe that.
You mean the Bible
yeah,
defends itself?
Sure, it does. It defends itself in every way, and I'm going to tell you two things right now. Psalm 14 says, "A fool says in his heart, there is no God," and the reason why that is because 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, "Satan, who is the god of this world, has blinded the minds of those who don't believe." So this is all a faith thing. You know,
why would God let that
issue.
happen, David? He asked.
Why would God let that happen? Because He knows the hearts of men.
No, but why would He let the hearts be blind?
Because they're wicked. Because of what's going on right here. See, I'll say this and then I'll shut up. Okay. When you make excuses like this, not to seek or follow God, I wrote this down before. This is just my own thinking. When you make excuses not to follow or seek God, in that you become your own God and you put yourself before God. Okay? Now you think about that. The creation declares His majesty. Okay? Those birds, that baby you had, all that kind of stuff.
All right.
That
let's hear from
God.
Let's hear from Kaz.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you're saying that God has allowed Satan to blind my heart, correct?
No, blind your eyes, not your heart.
Blind my eyes. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm asking you why God would let that happen, and you said because I'm wicked, right?
No, the hearts of men are wicked. It started when
Okay.
So his heart's wicked. That's why he's
okay.
his
Hold
eyes are
on.
blind.
That's what I'm asking you a question.
No, I didn't say
so
his
if
heart's
they're wicked,
wicked. I
if
said
they're
men's
wicked,
hearts
right?
are wicked.
Okay, all right. But he wants to talk about himself, man. So
sure, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I want to know if no, I don't. This is not about me. Okay, so the hearts of men are wicked, right? That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If Satan doesn't blind their hearts, will they stay wicked or will they become less wicked?
Well, his motive is to blind everybody to where they don't find God. Okay.
Satan's blind. Okay, yeah, I get it. So, but if he wasn't doing that, they wouldn't stay wicked, right? They would be unable to deny the glory of God, right?
That question I can't answer. Okay. I suggest that you ask God to reveal himself.
Do you think that there's any validity to that whatsoever? Do you think that I'm on any kind of truth? Is it even a little? Like, do you think there's any truth to that?
Any truth to what again? Repeat your statement.
Say it again.
If Satan was not allowed to blind our hearts or our eyes or whatever, would we stay wicked?
Well, see, that goes, because in the 1,000-year millennium, which during that time, Satan's going to be thrown in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years, and men are still going to go their own way. They're still going to choose themselves instead of God, and that's what I mean. See,
is that because the damage is done?
There's going to be a time. There's going to be a time when that's going to be a proven fact. Okay, in the 1,000-year millennium.
All right, let's hear from Kaz.
So it doesn't matter if my heart is blinded or not.
Sure, it matters because if why? How about this? Why do you not believe in God? Why why do you feel that you're an atheist?
Because I don't think he exists.
Okay. All right. Well, have you ever spoken to him, like talked to him, like he's your friend, or how many times have you read the Bible?
I was a devout Christian, man, like for a long time, and I really believe the very last prayer I said to God was just asking him to save my marriage. Right? Like I was married, I was trying to do everything right, man. I was trying to do the right thing, trying to do God's will, right? And I prayed to God and asked him to save my marriage, and it didn't happen, right? So like that's the last time I prayed. So. Like if I can't pray to God to ask him to do something to help me keep up doing his will, right? Something that he specifically told me to do in the Bible. If I can't ask him for help doing that, then there's nothing else I can get, right?
Well, maybe it was his will for her not to be there, man. My first wife bolted on me when I was 25 years old, and my second wife, I've been with her for 31 years, and she's the greatest thing that ever happened.
No, God's will is for you to be married for your whole life. That's what the Bible says.
Yeah, I disavow divorce and remarriage, David.
I know you do. I know you do, but hey,
God's will is never divorce.
I'm not
dude.
perfect.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
David,
I never said I was perfect.
David, I gotta keep it moving, man. Take care.
I know that other caller tied you up a lot. Hey, listen, just seek God, man. Seek Him. Read that. Ask God to help you, Kaz.
That's what I'm doing.
Talk to Him.
That's what I'm doing right now,
buddy.
I'm seeking Him.
All right, buddy. All right, take care, y'all.
Thank you, David. ZEUS in Florida on the line with Kaz of Atheist Edge. Thanks for holding, ZEUS. Go ahead.
What's going on, Hake? What's going on, Kaz? A good show. I've been enjoying it. Actually, I think Kaz is one of your better guests that you've had lately, so
nice, man.
Props to you. So the way I understand it, Kaz, is you don't believe that the Bible is the Word of God, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Hey, I agree with you on that. I 100% agree with you on that. And but I disagree with you that there is no God. I believe there is a God, and I believe the problem with man is they often conflate biblical God with the real God. And I think that's why some people get kind of emotional when they talk, when like you say you don't believe in biblical God, they get emotional. I think that's kind of part of the reason. And so like, I agree with you on the Word of God isn't, or by the Bible isn't the Word of God.
Okay, so here's what I want to say about that.
Sure.
The falsity or truth of Christianity doesn't tell us anything about whether or not there is a God. Christianity could be 100% false, and there still could be a God. I totally agree with you on that. But without Christianity, without the Bible, or any of the other religions, if we just throw them all out, then we have no way of describing God, his attributes or his desires or his wills or anything else about him. So we literally know nothing about this God. So if there is that God, I just want to know who he is, what he's all about, and how do I know that he exists?
If I may, I agree with throwing out all those other, I guess, religions, gods too, because I don't agree with them either. And the way I see it is, I'm sure you've heard this saying, when you see a painting, you know that there is an artist. And I feel like that is kind of how the universe works. The way science is, the way like certain laws work, something had to put it. It's not random. Something put it in. And I think the best way to know him is to go within and just kind of be quiet. And it's not like the way, like, I guess Bible's not per se listen to God. It's just, I guess, a feeling. And I feel like the will of God is just the way life turns out for you. And I feel like the way I like to say it is like the animals that exist, they don't worry about things. They don't worry about food. They kind of just go about their life, and God provides. And I kind of feel like that's the way it is. And will you ever get that divine creator to come down and speak to you personally? I doubt it. I don't think he personally interferes with our stuff. I think he has created human beings to solve these problems on their own. The problem is human beings are deceived by religion, holy books, and people's interpretations of these holy books. So I'm cool with you being atheist. I have no issue with it. And like I've enjoyed listening to you guys talk about stuff. So, and I think the way we get past all this like bitterness, emotionalness, is being able to have conversation and kind of just move forward from our own biases on what we think it is, whether it's the Bible or atheism, and just work together as human beings. And I think, in my opinion, God is good, and the opposite is evil. And whether that is the devil or not is up to, like, I guess, debate. But I just think the closest you can be to God is by being a good person. And inside, you know what a good person is. You know certain things that you do, well, not you, but that people do is not good. And so the best thing you can do is just try to be a good person and live a decent life, whether you're atheist or Bible thumper.
So what I want to say about that is that I appreciate, well, let me go back a little bit. I think that it sounds to me like the God that you believe in doesn't have any of the baggage, let's say, of Christianity or Islam, right? It's and the God is equivalent to good. So for all intents and purposes, it sounds to me like what you worship is good. And that's great, in my opinion. I'm fine with you worshiping good. If you don't have the baggage of a bunch of dogmas telling you who you can and cannot associate with or treat with respect, or, giving you these ideas of being superior to other people or whatever else these religions may convince people of, then by all means, I embrace and accept your religious beliefs, and I will not try to convince you otherwise. If I see that your beliefs may influence you to think poorly about other things, I might try to argue with you about that. But the bland belief in God is a amorphous construct is fine. It doesn't hurt anybody. The problem is we humans, we put our interpretations, which is really just us projecting ourselves onto God.
Yep.
And claiming that God wants what we want so conveniently. And that's the problem. So go ahead. By all means, believe in the God that you want. I don't think that he exists. I don't think that you have any way of showing that he exists. And I don't believe in things that I can't demonstrate. So that's for me. That's just me.
Well, I could kind of agree with you. Maybe that I do believe in good, I guess, as God or whatever. And man, if that's how you want to live, that's how you want to live. I'm cool with that. I feel like God has created people to live their life and enjoy it. And live in the moment. So if that's how you want to live your life, I'm all for it, man. As long as you're not doing so-called evil, like hurting people or doing, like how you said, if you saw me doing something you perceived as evil, you'd want to say something. I would want to do the same thing. And so if you're living like your life as an atheist, but you're doing good, I'm cool with it, man. Like I live on a farm, I work on a farm, and I don't know, I'll be working and just looking at the animals, and I feel like the best way to honor God is to live in your current moment and just enjoy the blessing of life. And if you choose to enjoy the blessing of life by being an atheist and you're doing good, I have no issue with it, and I wish you well.
I wish you well as well.
Zeus, you heard CJ's call, did you, about free will decision making? If we have proof of decision making, did you hear that?
Kind of, yeah, I did hear it.
Do you think we have free will?
I believe so. I believe you have a choice on how you want to live your life. If you want to live as an atheist, then live as an atheist. If you want to live as a Bible thumper and believe that a book written by men is somehow connected to God, that's your choice. And you know what I mean? Like I believe you have free will and you can choose the life you want to live. And I think that's the best gift God gave us. And whether you choose to not believe him, whether you choose to be a Bible thumper, or whether you choose to be on a farm, God's cool with it either way. And I think that's true love, is allowing you to make whatever decision you want to make. I
don't feel that the way I believe I came at by choice. I don't think anybody, even the Bible thumpers, choose to go into it like that. I think that they're led into it by their life circumstances and their built-in sort of I don't know. People get twisted in life into all kinds of different ways, and when they're born into a culture, they naturally kind of follow into that culture or rebel against it or whatever. I don't know if those things. Yeah, we should have the freedom to be any of those things in terms of fellow human beings allowing each other to be what they think that they are. But I don't know if we have free will or make decisions necessarily.
You know what? I feel like that's a very valid argument, and I will be thinking on that today as I work. And I feel like when I think about it, the reason I've come to, I guess, the way I'm thinking now is through my life circumstances.
Right.
So is that because of the choices I made in life, or is that because God has willed that I go through all these different circumstances and get to this point? That's like a very interesting point.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the call, Zeus in Florida.
Definitely. Hey, have a good one. Later, Kaz. Have a good one as well.
All right.
You too. Thank you.
Kaz, we got to close, but I was interested by CJ's argument, like the sense of awareness that you have and the sense of decision making. It kind of reminds me of what this Zeus said from Florida, that maybe the answer of God is rather than looking on the outside and looking for him to speak to you or anything, is for any of us to just check ourselves or check what we think our real selves are, and our thoughts and what we think that we want and all that stuff. And maybe that can kind of, by process of elimination, be finding God. By finding what we aren't really and what's not true.
So here's a problem with that, right? You can go inside yourself, and what you're doing is basically comparing your idea of God to your idea of good.
Right.
And totally internally, from a very biased perspective, picking and choosing what fits and what doesn't. If God exists outside of you, if he is a part of the universe itself and not just you, then it's a common thing that runs through all things.
Right.
And that commonality will be apparent. But when we all go into ourselves and try to figure out what God wants, we all come out with different things.
Yep. All right, man. Man, I appreciate you coming on. Tell the people how to find you, your YouTube channel, Atheist Edge, and Twitter and all that stuff.
Yeah, all those things. It's going to be at Atheist Edge, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. I have a Discord. You can come chat with me. I love to talk to anybody about anything. So if you have a conversation you want to have, by all means, hit me up.
All right, man. Appreciate you coming on. Kaz of Atheist Edge did some great modern day debate moderating, and one of the solid guys. And he did a how's your friend doing? You did a little thing for your friend.
He has a place to live now.
Nice.
He's getting his treatment. As far as I know, he's doing good.
Right on, man. Well,
thank you for asking about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to say shout out to Hake for coming on that show and helping us raise a little bit of money for my friend. Regardless of whatever we believe that is different, right? Whatever opinions you may have that I think are bad or whatever, blah, 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 all that crap, right? I think that you genuinely want to be a good person. You genuinely care about other people, and you're willing to think about things. So I respect that about you, if nothing else. And I think that's something that's valuable.
Right on, man. Well, take care. We'll talk again. Kaz of Atheist Edge. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Guys, this has been the Hake Report. Enjoy. What song did I pull up? It's not No Monkeys in My Family Tree. What's my track? Moonpie Eating. It's Soul Junk Sunday, left over to Monday. Adios, America. And see you tomorrow. I'll read the rest of your super chats and take the rest of the calls tomorrow, guys. Hopefully. American Anchor, baby, coming up. Here's Soul Junk. It's Christian, guys. I saved this for the end. Easily skipped.
Junk to the soul. Yeah. Junk to the soul. This thing needs holes poked in it. I pause for a minute to reflect on what keeps folks stressed out and guessing. Ain't no wrinkle in time. A 15-tone line, a theoretical spine can stand up to the mind that exists within mind. Possessing all things, take part with the divine. Ain't lessening the messianic shine, one single photon. These scribes got a rack by the door, they hang their brain in the coat on. I float on, word, gospel absurd to the natural. Capture all data and rapture y'all with truth that hits the syllabus like John Wilkes Booth. Dead presidents for gods, I got proof. You pray to your ceiling, formally aloof. Only signal finds its way through is cable access. Your priest is an actress who feed on the mattress off the dish on the roof. Fact is, I jack this beat 4 degrees off its axis to get my battle axe and smack this point home. Sweet home hits the dome. Smooth as sandpaper, groove soft as cactus. Tactical weapons as tools, clear synapses. Signs and wonders, speak the word and enact it. I cracked it, the code that forbids the download of the abstract to actual. Fire-tongued implode. Power glow for this hour low by those who sing. Heroes, but live like E.R.I.P. Behind the sepulcher, slowly get the message, but always salute the messenger. This session here goes out without doubt to those far and near, saturated in the love I've been flood-bathed. Peace way beyond your mental persuasion. It's raspberry time, do the bump if you're stumped, you get rump abrasion. Stop playing hard to get and get your lumping matter gray stung. This gospel broadcasted across nations. Fire breathing on your station. Lax to the soul and make you say.
This man is white, singing, rapping right now. Soul Junk. from 1958 is the album name. Happy birthday, Romy. Rome 13. So good. Sounds like Dizzy Rascal. Adios, America. Bye.